So let's take a look at Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, which hit theaters July 11th and made a smashing $22.2 million opening weekend. This film takes place about 10 years after the first movie, Rise of the Planet of the Apes, leaves off, which, if you recall, is where Caesar and the rest of the apes get themselves out of captivity and run across the Golden Gate Bridge to claim their new home. Going into this movie, I honestly did not have very high expectations. I saw the first one, Rise of the Planet of the Apes, and mainly only watched it because of James Franco. And the fact that he wasn't in this movie, I was kind of discouraged. Which brings me to our stars. First up, we have Gary Oldman, who plays Dreyfus, the former chief of police of San Francisco, who rises to mayor when the simian flu breaks out. We know Gary Oldman from his prominent role as Commissioner Gordon in Christopher Nolan's The Dark Knight series, in which he plays the chief of police. So honestly, in this movie, it was kind of just like the other ones, where his character was most definitely needed, but his performance didn't add much to it. Next up, we have Jason Clarke, who plays Malcolm in this film, and he kind of takes the place of James Franco from the first movie, in which he befriends Caesar and kind of takes the side of the apes. We know Clarke from Zero Dark 30, Lawless, and Public Enemies. And in this film, he's just not James Franco. I mean, I could be biased because when I found out James Franco wasn't going to be in this film, I was completely devastated. So I do compare the two naturally, and he just didn't do it for me. Because he's just, to me, not as relatable, not as lovable. So it was very hard to watch him in this film try to be the good guy, try to make peace and, prevent war. But at the end of the day, I don't see him as this great hero. And last but certainly not least, we have Andy Serkis, who plays our main character, Caesar. Caesar's the king of the apes. He's the one that gave all the apes their powers and abilities, and he's been building his clan for 10 years now. So all the apes do whatever he says. And his edge is that he is the only ape that knows the good side of the humans, which is why there is not an all-out war the second the apes and the humans meet. Serkis is known for his role in Tintin, The Prestige, and of course Rise of the Planet of the Apes. And in this film, his performance was just bone-chilling. I mean, it was phenomenal. Whenever Caesar would give anyone a command or just say anything, everyone would just look around and be like, dude, you better do what he says. I mean, his character was just lovable from the get-go, and especially if you've seen the first movie, you know what he's been through. And the fact that his character stays true no matter what happens is just, it's amazing. He definitely, without a doubt, made this movie. Let's talk about the visual effects. I thought the effects in this film were amazing, which says a lot now because a lot of times films will take the visual effects to try to lure the viewer away from their horrible storylines. For example, Transformers 3 and 4. I mean, how many times is... Anyway, that was not an issue for this film, and I actually thought that the visual effects brought the story along. Now let's talk about the ending. Fear not, I will keep to my word, no spoilers. But in my opinion, the ending is one of the most lasting effects on the viewer. That's what you go home and you think about the rest of the night. So if I could describe the ending of this film in 2 words, they would be, wait, what? The ending could be alluding to yet another sequel, but if so, how? I mean, I wasn't confused. I know what happened, but for me, I would like a little bit more closure on exactly what happens. I feel like it was trying to have some kind of inception, like it could go this way or that way. It was epic, but boo on the ending. So in all, I really enjoyed this movie. I mean, it exceeded my expectations, and the storyline was overall very well done. Drop everything and go see it? Maybe not. But definitely catch it in the theaters. It is definitely a surround sound experience you will not forget. Well, that's all I got for you normal people. But nerds, let's dissect this movie, shall we? So let's start with our director. We've got Matt Reeves, who is known for Felicity, Let Me In, and The Yards, all 3 of which were either before my time or I've never even heard of before. My only critique with the directing is Matt Reeves' portrayal of the townspeople in San Francisco. To what I understand, the simian flu knocked out most of the population of the earth, and San Francisco is one of the only populated areas, but not very many people live there. However, it looks like present-day Tokyo. I mean, there are like millions of people packed in this small little space, and they have this ginormous armory, so you kind of look at it and like, well, so what's the big deal if you have to go to war with the apes? And I mean, with good reason they do fear the apes, but just the fact that the town space was so small, making the people look so numerous, that that point was not really made firmly. I mean, most people could, read between the lines and understand it, but that's my critique. Alright, moving on to the writers. There are 3 writers given credit for this film, which are Mark Baumbach, Rick Jaffa, and Amanda Silver. However, I'm going to focus on Jaffa, as he is the only writer that is also given credit for the first film. Jaffa is also given credit for the screenplays of Eye for an Eye and The Relic, and in this film, he did a great job. He was very good at the plot twists. They weren't too out of the blue. It wasn't like you're sitting there like, okay, that was just very dramatic. They were very good plot twists. There was not a single time where I was completely on one side or completely on the other side, and I was flipping through the entire movie, which I thought was a great thing, because it kept you on your toes. You weren't sitting back thinking, oh, I know exactly how this is going to end. The end completely threw me off. I can't wait to see what he does next. And now let's talk about one of my favorite parts, the composition. Michael Giacchino composed this film, and he is also known for his composition of Up, Star Trek Into Darkness, and The Incredibles. The common theme with Giacchino is that he loves to use repeating themes throughout his scores, which is why I'm not a huge fan of his. I mean, I'm a Steve Jablonsky and Hans Zimmer girl, so I like things that are new, different, keep you on your toes, and his is more of a repeating theme, which was great for this film. The Apes had their own little theme. You knew exactly when they were coming, you knew exactly what scenes they were in, and it was very good. I liked it. As far as buying the album goes, I mean, I wouldn't buy the whole thing just because of the qualms that I had just stated about the repeating themes. However, the song you are hearing right now is a song that I did buy, and I like it a lot, which is called Planet of the End Credits, not just because that name is just amazing, but it's not as repetitive. It goes through all of the themes that Giacchino uses throughout the film, and it has a climax. It's also very powerful music. It's moving music. It really guides your emotions throughout this film, which is why I think Giacchino did an excellent job. On to the last part of the review. Let's go through the movie's trivia. Fast fact number 1. The book that Alexander shares with Maurice is Black Hole by Charles Burns. The story is about a sexually transmitted disease among American teenagers that turns them into outcasts. The book had a number of similarities to the Apes narrative, namely the theme of outcasts living in the woods, segregated from everyone else. Fast fact number 2. In contrast to the previous movie, this film shot motion capture mostly in exterior sets. Andy Serkis remarked that shooting outside in motion capture suits made all actors playing apes so sweaty and smelly that they hardly dared to come close to other people after a few days. Props to Matt Reeves for thinking outside the box. Fact number 3. Caesar's son is named Blue Eyes. This is most likely a reference to Caesar's mother, Bright Eyes, which is also the name Zira gives Taylor in the original Planet of the Apes. That is so sweet and so clever at the same time. Props to Jaffa on that. And the last fact, which almost made me cry. The fate of Will, James Franco, after the events of Rise of the Planet of the Apes is unknown, but there is a clue. When Caesar returns to his house, you can see a sign with an X on the stoop by the door. Usually this means someone living there is infected. Man, I really hope it was his wife and he got away somehow. Team Franco. Thank you, nerds and normal people, for watching this extremely long review on Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, and I hope you subscribe to my channel and check out my later videos. Catch y'all later.